the Scriptures. They begin to ask the question, well, what about infant baptism? Is that in the Bible? And they said, we did not find infant baptism in the Bible. Zwingli, you have to end that too if you're going to be faithful to this Reformation of following the Bible, the Scriptures only for the church in the Reformation. Zwingli pauses for a while and says, well, they're right. I don't see any immediate declaration of infant baptism. And he tries to think through, how does he answer this? And as he's meditating on it, he begins to consider the great biblical truth of the covenant. He finds the story of God making a covenant with Abram in Genesis 15. He finds in Genesis 17 that the sign of Abraham's faith is given to infants in the covenant. And as he studies the idea of the covenant, he realizes the covenant unites the Old and New Testament, and in God's covenants, the infants and children are always included. And he says, because the Bible is one book from the Old to New Testament, because there is a covenant of grace that unites us all to the Lord, and in the covenant, God always includes the children, of course the children are included. If they were to be excluded, and God never told us directly that, it would make no sense. If he had changed it, he would have told us. But he continues to say, let the little children come unto me, because such belongs to the kingdom of heaven. He will tell us that the children are part of the covenant all the way from Old and New Testament. And so he establishes covenantal baptism, not in the early church sense where it said you need infant baptism to wash away original sin. No, this is the baptism of claiming God's promise that's from a parent to a child for 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments. And so he establishes this. Well, the Swiss brethren reject that. And so what you have then is a break in the Swiss Reformation in Zurich, where you have those that are following Zwingli and those that are saying we have to go a different direction. And that creates, if you will, the movement that will become known as the Anabaptists. The Anabaptists. The word Ana means again. It means to re-baptize. We actually know that word if you study the Gospel of John in Greek in John chapter 3. It says you must be born again. That word again is ana. It can mean from above or again. And so they did not believe they were being baptized again because they said infant baptism is not biblical. They said we're being baptized properly. And so Felix Montz and George Blaurock and some others gathered on Christmas Day I think in the early 1520s, and they take a milk bucket, fill it with water from the well, and they pour it over each other. So they practice pouring for their believers' baptism. And they said, the Bible in the New Testament teaches believers' baptism, and we are washing with water. And so that begins the rebaptism movement, or the Anabaptist movement. Now, the Anabaptists are going to insist that they have the biblical position. Well, the magistrates of Zurich were already committed to following Zwingli's leadership, and they said Zwingli says that it's a covenantal baptism, and they forbade believers' baptism. Well, they would not stop. Their consciences were bound by what they believed, and they kept doing it. And they warned them, if you continue to do this, there will be severe consequences because you are disobeying the magistrate of the city. Well, they continued to do it. And so those that did not flee in exile were captured, and in punishment, they were taken to the river that flows right through Zurich, and they were drowned. They wanted to be immersed. They were immersed, and they were kept under until they died. It's a tragic moment in time. But what we see then is that the Reformed movement will have a breakaway from it with part of the Radical Reformation.